I should have known better than to let my hand drift that low. Should have known better than to test the boundaries of whatever this was between us, this careful dance we'd been performing for months in the confines of our shared dorm room. But the laughter had made me careless, and Damien's warmth beside me had made me forget the rules we'd never spoken aloud. The room was dim, cast in the amber glow of my desk lamp. The overhead fluorescents had burned out weeks ago, and neither of us had bothered to replace them. We liked it better this way, I think. The soft light made everything feel smaller, more intimate, like the world beyond these four walls didn't exist. The gaming controllers lay forgotten on the floor where we dropped them, tangled in their cords, the final match long finished. We'd been sprawled across my narrow twin bed for the better part of an hour, the adrenaline of competition slowly ebbing into something quieter, more dangerous. Damien was pressed against my left side, his shoulder tucked beneath mine, his leg thrown carelessly over my thigh. This was how we always ended up after gaming sessions, too lazy to separate, too comfortable in each other's space to acknowledge how it might look to anyone else. His dark hair was mussed from running his hands through it during particularly intense moments of play, and I could smell the faint trace of his deodorant mixed with something uniquely him. Something I'd grown to associate with safety, with home. We'd been teasing each other about the final match. He'd beaten me by a single point, and I was giving him grief about his alleged cheating. Standard procedure for us. The kind of mock argument that was really just an excuse to stay close, to keep talking, to delay the moment when one of us would inevitably retreat to his own bed and the careful distance we maintained during daylight hours. That's when I did it. That's when I let my guard down. I was reaching for his ribs, aiming for that spot just below his left side that always made him squirm and laugh. It was a move I'd made dozens of times before, part of our established repertoire of friendly roughhousing. But this time my hand slipped. This time, my fingers grazed lower than they should have, brushing against the sensitive skin just above his hip, where his t-shirt had ridden up slightly. The effect was instantaneous. Damien's entire body went rigid beneath my touch, his breath catching in a way that made my stomach flip. For a split second, neither of us moved. My hand was still there, resting against the warm plane of his lower abdomen, my fingertips barely grazing the edge of his waistband. Then he spoke, his voice sharp and sudden in the quiet room. "Don't touch me there." The words hung between us like a physical barrier, clear and unmistakable. A boundary drawn in the sand, a line not to be crossed. I should have pulled my hand away immediately. Should have laughed it off, made some joke about personal space, pretended it was an accident. That's what the old version of myself would have done. The version that existed before months of late-night conversations and casual intimacy had rewired something fundamental in my brain. But I didn't move. And more importantly, neither did he. Damien's body remained exactly where it was, pressed warm and solid against mine. His leg was still hooked over my thigh, his shoulder still tucked beneath my arm. If he truly wanted me to stop, if the boundary he'd just vocalized was real and absolute, wouldn't he have pulled away? Wouldn't he have put actual distance between us, not just words? Instead, he lay there, breathing carefully, like he was trying to control something larger than himself. I could feel the tension in his muscles, the way he seemed to be fighting his own instincts. His warning fell hollow, performative, like something he thought he was supposed to say rather than something he actually meant. The silence that followed was different from any we'd shared before. It wasn't comfortable or easy. It was charged, electric, heavy with implications neither of us was prepared to voice. I became hyper-aware of every point of contact between our bodies, his thigh against mine, his ribs expanding and contracting with each measured breath, the heat of his skin seeping through the thin cotton of his shirt. My hand was still there, still resting against that forbidden territory he'd just claimed as off-limits. And he was letting it stay. This was Damien, my roommate, my best friend, the guy who dated girls with enthusiasm and talked about his conquests with the kind of casual confidence that had always made me simultaneously envious and inexplicably sad. Damien, who'd been sharing my space for 8 months now, who'd gradually invaded every corner of my carefully ordered life with his chaos and warmth and relentless, overwhelming presence. Damien, who said, "Don't touch me there," but whose body was telling me something entirely different. I found myself studying his profile in the lamplight, the sharp line of his jaw, the way his dark lashes cast shadows on his cheekbones. He was staring at the ceiling, his expression unreadable, like he was trying to solve some complex equation in his head. There was something fragile about him in that moment, something vulnerable beneath his usual swagger that made my chest ache. The rational part of my brain was screaming at me to move my hand, to laugh this off, to preserve the friendship that had become the most important thing in my life. But there was another part of me, a part that had been growing stronger and more insistent with each passing day, that wanted to see what would happen if I didn't. If I let this moment stretch and breathe and become something we couldn't take back. Because this wasn't the first time. There had been other moments, smaller, more easily dismissed, but moments nonetheless. The way he always chose my bed over his own for movie nights. The way his touches lingered just a beat too long during our casual roughhousing. The way he looked at me sometimes when he thought I wasn't paying attention, with something that felt like hunger in his eyes. I've been telling myself I was imagining it, that I was projecting my own confused feelings onto innocent moments of friendship, that the one I felt building between us existed only in my own desperate, lovesick mind. But lying there in the amber glow of the desk lamp, with Damien's warmth pressed against me and his contradictory words still echoing in the air, I began to wonder if I'd been wrong. If maybe, just maybe, I wasn't the only one struggling with feelings that had no neat category, no safe label, no clear path forward. The air in the room felt thick, almost humid with tension. Every second that passed without him pulling away felt like a small revelation, a crack in the carefully constructed wall between what we were and what we might become. My pulse was loud in my ears, so loud I was certain he could hear it too. This was the moment. This was the precipice we'd been approaching for months without acknowledging it, dancing around it with jokes and casual touches and plausible deniability. The moment when everything would either shift into something new and terrifying and beautiful, or shatter completely under the weight of our silence. And still, neither of us moved. I've always been the careful one, the one who measures twice before cutting, who reads the fine print, who keeps his side of any shared space meticulously organized. My half of the dorm room reflects this. Textbooks arranged by subject and height, clothes folded and put away, desk surface clear except for the essentials. Everything in its place, everything controlled. It's a habit born from years of feeling like chaos was always one careless moment away from consuming everything I'd worked to build. Damien is my opposite in every conceivable way. His side of the room looks like a tornado hit it, then circled back for good measure. Clothes draped over his desk chair, energy drink cans forming precarious towers on his nightstand, textbooks scattered across the floor like he's conducting some kind of academic archaeology dig. His mess doesn't respect boundaries. It creeps across the invisible line that divides our space, colonizing my territory one forgotten sock at a time. When we first met during freshman orientation, I remember thinking he was too much, too loud, too confident, too comfortable taking up space in a world that had taught me to make myself smaller. He'd walked into our assigned room with a duffel bag slung over one shoulder and a grin that seemed to announce his intention to befriend everyone within a 50-foot radius. He'd looked at me, sitting cross-legged on my perfectly made bed, already arranging my schedule for the semester, and said something about how we were going to have a great year together. The certainty in his voice had been both annoying and oddly comforting. But somehow, over the course of our freshman year, and now well into our sophomore, that fundamental difference between us has become the foundation of something I can't quite name. Where I retreat, he advances. Where I overthink, he acts. Where I build walls, he finds ways around them, over them, through them, until I'm not sure where his presence ends and mine begins. These four walls have become our entire universe. The rest of the campus, the other students, the world beyond our door. It all feels theoretical, insubstantial compared to the reality we've constructed in this cramped space. We eat most of our meals here, huddled over takeout containers while streaming shows on one of our laptops. We study here, though Damien's version of studying involves more pacing and dramatic gesturing than actual reading. We talk here, long, rambling conversations that stretch deep into the night, covering everything from childhood fears to half-formed dreams about who we might become. It's in these conversations that I've learned to read the subtle shifts in his energy. The way his restlessness intensifies when he's avoiding something he doesn't want to think about. The way his jokes become sharper, more defensive, when he feels cornered by his own emotions. The way he deflects serious moments with humor, like he's afraid that too much sincerity might expose something he's not ready to acknowledge. But there are cracks in his armor, moments when the bravado slips, and I catch glimpses of something softer underneath. Like the night he told me about his father's expectations. The weight of being the firstborn son in a family where success is measured in traditional metrics he's not sure he can meet. Or the time he admitted that sometimes he feels like he's performing a version of himself that everyone expects to see, rather than being whoever he actually is underneath it all. These revelations come in the dark, when the desk lamp is turned low and the rest of the world feels safely distant. They come wrapped in casual language, delivered with the kind of practiced nonchalance that suggests he's been rehearsing them, but they land with the weight of true confession. And I hoard them, these glimpses of his inner landscape, like precious artifacts that prove I know him in ways others don't. The physical closeness between us has evolved gradually, so slowly that I can't pinpoint exactly when it started feeling significant. It began innocently enough, shared space necessitating shared contact. His legs stretched across my lap during movie nights because his bed was covered in laundry. My shoulder becoming his pillow during all-night gaming sessions because the wall was too uncomfortable to lean against. Small accommodations that felt practical at first, but have grown into something that feels necessary in ways I don't want to examine too closely. I've started to notice things I shouldn't notice. The way his breathing changes when I accidentally brush against him while reaching for something. The way he finds excuses to touch me, adjusting the collar of my shirt, stealing food off my plate, wrestling for control of the TV remote in elaborate productions that require far more physical contact than the situation actually demands. The way his energy shifts in the moments just before these touches, like he's gathering courage for something. There's an undercurrent running beneath all our interactions now, something electric and dangerous that neither of us acknowledges directly. It lives in the spaces between words, in the moments of silence that stretch just a beat too long, in the way we've both started choosing his bed over mine for our evening rituals, even though mine is neater, more comfortable, more practical for two people to share. His bed smells like him. That combination of soap and cologne and something indefinably warm that I've started associating with safety. When we lie there together, ostensibly watching something on his laptop or engaged in some elaborate debate about movies or music or the fundamental nature of existence, I find myself cataloging these details. The weight of his arm when it falls across my chest during a particularly dramatic scene. The way his laughter vibrates through his rib cage into mine when our sides are pressed together. The heat that radiates from his skin even through layers of clothing. I tell myself it's normal, that this is what close friendship looks like, that I'm reading significance in moments that are simply the natural result of two people sharing such intimate space for so long. But deep down, in places I don't let my conscious mind wander very often, I know that what's happening between us has moved beyond the boundaries of typical friendship in a territory that feels both thrilling and terrifying. The dorm room has become both sanctuary and prison, a place where we can exist in this bubble of closeness and possibility, protected from the questions and expectations of the outside world, but also trapped with the growing intensity of whatever this thing between us is becoming. That moment, my hand sliding lower than it should have, his sharp intake of breath, the words don't touch me, they're hanging in the air like a challenge, becomes the catalyst for everything that follows. It's the stone thrown into still water, sending ripples outward in expanding circles that touch every corner of our carefully constructed world. I lie there in the aftermath, my hand still resting against his skin, waiting for him to laugh it off the way he always does. waiting for him to shove me away with some joke about personal boundaries or inappropriate touching, waiting for the moment when we can pretend this never happened, when we can go back to the safe territory of plausible deniability. But the laughter doesn't come. The shove doesn't come. Instead, his breathing deepens, becomes more deliberate, like he's trying to control something larger than himself. His body remains exactly where it is, pressed warm and solid against mine, his legs still hooked over my thigh, as if anchoring himself there. The contradiction is what undoes me. The boundary spoken so clearly, then left completely unguarded. The warning delivered with words, while his body tells a different story entirely. If he really didn't want this, whatever this is, wouldn't he have moved? Wouldn't he have put actual distance between us instead of just offering the illusion of resistance? In the silence that follows, I become aware of my own pulse hammering against my ribs. The sound seems impossibly loud in the quiet room, so loud I'm certain he can hear it too. Time stretches and warps around us, seconds feeling like minutes. Each breath we take together marking the passage into territory neither of us has mapped before. I can feel him thinking, can sense the war happening inside his head through the tension in his muscles, the careful way he's controlling his breathing. There's something almost fragile about him in this moment, something that makes me want to protect him even as I'm the one who's brought us to this precipice. From that night forward, everything changes. It's not dramatic at first. The shift is subtle, almost imperceptible, like the way seasons change. One day you realize the air feels different, the light falls at a new angle, and you can't pinpoint exactly when the transformation began. But it's there, this new awareness that colors every interaction between us. I start noticing things I've trained myself not to see. The way Damien's eyes linger on me when he thinks I'm not paying attention. The way he finds excuses to brush against me when he passes by my desk. His fingers trailing across my shoulder in what could be casual contact, but feels like something more deliberate. The way he started choosing to sit closer to me during our evening routines, close enough that I can feel the heat radiating from his skin. His jokes take on a different quality, too. Where before his humor was a shield, a way to deflect anything too serious or uncomfortable, now it feels like a testing ground. He makes comments that dance right up to the edge of something real, then watches my reaction with an intensity that makes my stomach flip, like he's trying to gauge how far he can push, how much truth he can smuggle in under the guise of casual banter. The most significant change is in our sleeping arrangements. We've always been flexible about whose bed we use for our evening rituals, but now Damien seems to have developed a consistent preference for mine. He arrives with increasingly elaborate excuses. His sheets aren't quite right, the angle is better for watching movies, my side of the room gets better Wi-Fi signal. The reasons become more transparent over time, but neither of us acknowledges the pattern directly. Instead, we both pretend it's perfectly normal that he's essentially moved into my bed, that it makes perfect sense for him to spend every night curled against my side, his breathing gradually sinking with mine as we drift towards sleep. That there's nothing significant about the way he started reaching for me in the dark, his hand finding my wrist or my arm like he's anchoring himself to something solid. The touches become more frequent, more deliberate. A hand on my back when he leans over me to grab something from my desk. His knee pressing against mine when we sit side by side during study sessions. His fingers brushing mine when we pass food back and forth, the contact lasting just a beat longer than necessary. Each touch feels like a question being asked, a test being administered. And each time I don't pull away, each time I lean into the contact instead of retreating from it, feels like an answer I'm giving without words. The most dangerous moments come in the dark, when the desk lamp is turned low and the rest of the world feels safely distant. These are the times when our defenses are down, when the careful distance we maintain during daylight hours collapses under the weight of proximity and exhaustion and the strange intimacy that comes with sharing such close quarters. It's during one of these moments that he first says something that sounds like the truth. We're lying in my bed, ostensibly watching something on his laptop, but neither of us is really paying attention to the screen. His head is on my shoulder, his hair tickling my neck, and I can feel the steady rhythm of his breathing against my chest. "You're different," he says quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. "From everyone else, I mean." I don't know how to respond to that, so I don't. But I feel the words settle into my chest like they found a home there, like they're filling a space I didn't know was empty. The silence that follows isn't uncomfortable. It's charged, yes, electric with possibility, but not uncomfortable. It's the kind of silence that feels like a conversation in itself, full of things neither of us is quite ready to say out loud, but both of us understand perfectly. And underneath it all, threading through every moment of every day, is the memory of that first boundary crossed. The echo of "don't touch me," they're followed by the deliberate choice not to move away. The knowledge that we've already stepped over a line neither of us knows how to step back across. The transformation isn't something that happens to us. It's something we choose day by day, touch by touch, in a series of small decisions that feel inevitable even as they terrify us both. I notice it first in the way Damien's body language changes around me, how he started leaning into my space with a kind of deliberate casualness that feels anything but casual. When we sit together now, he doesn't just happen to end up close. He positions himself there with purpose. During our study sessions, he'll migrate from his own desk to mine, claiming he needs help with something, but then staying long after the question has been answered. His chair gets pulled closer each time, until eventually he's sharing mine entirely, his arm draped across the back, his thigh pressed against mine as we both stare at the same textbook. These moments have a weight to them now that they didn't before. Where once I might have shifted away to give him more room, now I find myself staying perfectly still, afraid that any movement might break whatever spell we're under. Afraid that acknowledging what's happening might make it stop. The excuses for sharing my bed become increasingly transparent, but somehow that makes them more meaningful rather than less. He'll appear at my bedside after I've already settled in for the night, claiming his pillow isn't comfortable or that his roommate next door is being too loud, even though we both know our neighbor moved out 3 weeks ago. The pretense is paper thin, but we both honor it, both participate in the elaborate fiction that this is still just practical convenience. What strikes me most is how he started to claim my space as his own, not aggressively or carelessly the way his mess usually spreads, but with a kind of quiet intentionality that speaks to something deeper. He'll leave a sweatshirt draped over the foot of my bed, or keep a water bottle on my nightstand. Small territorial markers that suggest he's not just visiting my space anymore, he's inhabiting it. The quality of our teasing changes too, becomes something heavier and more complex. Where before our roughhousing was straightforward, wrestling for the remote, poking at each other's ribs, the kind of physical play that stays safely within the bounds of friendship. Now there's an undercurrent of something else running beneath it. The touches linger longer, become more deliberate. What starts as playful shoving escalates into something that feels more like exploration, hands finding excuses to map territories that should be off limits. But it's the softer moments that undo me completely. The way he'll rest his head against my shoulder when we're watching movies, his hair tickling my neck as he settles into position like he belongs there. The way his breathing will gradually sync with mine as we lie side by side, our bodies finding a rhythm together that feels natural as breathing itself. The way he'll reach for me in the dark, his hand finding my wrist or my arm like he's anchoring himself to something solid. These touches speak to a need that goes beyond physical comfort. There's something almost desperate about the way he seeks contact now, like he's trying to communicate something he doesn't have words for, like his body is having conversations his voice can't quite manage yet. I start to notice how he watches me when he thinks I'm not paying attention. I'll catch glimpses of him in my peripheral vision, studying my face with an intensity that makes my pulse quicken. There's something hungry in those looks, something searching, like he's trying to solve a puzzle whose pieces he's only just beginning to recognize. The most significant change is in our nighttime routines. What used to be a gradual settling into sleep has become something more intentional, more choreographed. He'll position himself against my side with careful precision, his leg hooking over mine in a way that seems designed to maximize contact. His arm will find its way across my chest, his hand coming to rest just over my heart like he's monitoring its rhythm. And then there are the moments when he speaks into the darkness, his voice soft and uncertain in ways that are completely unlike his usual confidence. Small confessions that feel like gifts, observations about himself or about us that he only seems capable of voicing when the lights are off and the world feels safely distant. I keep thinking about things I shouldn't think about. He says one night, his words barely audible against my shoulder. I don't ask what things. I'm not sure I'm ready for that level of honesty yet. But I file the confession away with all the others, these glimpses of his interior landscape that he started sharing with me in the dark. The transformation happening between us feels irreversible now, like we've crossed some invisible threshold and there's no way back to what we were before. Each night brings us closer to something we can't name, something that exists in the space between friendship and whatever comes after friendship when all the rules stop making sense. But even as we drift deeper into this new territory, neither of us acknowledges what's happening directly. We're still operating under the pretense that this is normal, that close friends share beds and seek constant physical contact and watch each other with the kind of intensity usually reserved for lovers. The fiction is becoming harder to maintain, but we cling to it anyway, afraid of what might happen if we let it go. Because the truth is, we're both terrified. Terrified of wanting something we're not supposed to want, terrified of needing someone in ways we don't understand, terrified of the possibility that this thing growing between us might be real enough to change everything we thought we knew about ourselves. The night it finally happens, we've been lying in my bed for over an hour, the pretense of watching something on his laptop long abandoned. The screen has gone dark, casting us into the amber glow of the desk lamp, and neither of us has moved to restart whatever we were supposed to be watching. We're past the point of needing distractions anymore. Damien is pressed against my side in the position that's become our default, his head on my shoulder, his leg thrown over mine, his arm across my chest. But tonight there's something different in the air between us, something electric and inevitable that makes every breath feel significant. The careful distance we've been maintaining, even in our closeness, has evaporated completely. The teasing starts the way it always does, with him poking fun at something I said earlier, his fingers finding that spot just below my ribs that makes me squirm. But tonight the playfulness has an edge to it, a deliberate quality that feels less like friendly roughhousing and more like a conversation we're having with our bodies instead of our voices. When I retaliate, reaching for his side in return, my hand doesn't stop where it usually would. Instead, it drifts lower, fingers tracing the line of his hip bone through the thin cotton of his t-shirt. I'm testing something, pushing against a boundary we've both been dancing around for weeks. Waiting for him to stop me, to laugh it off, to retreat behind the safety of casual friendship. But he doesn't. Instead, his breathing changes, becomes deeper and more deliberate. His body goes still beneath my touch, not with resistance, but with attention, like he's focusing all his energy on the sensation of my fingers against his skin. The silence stretches between us, heavy with possibility and terror in equal measure. I can feel his pulse hammering where his chest is pressed against my ribs, can sense the war happening inside his head through the tension in his muscles. We're balanced on the edge of something that will change everything, and we both know it. My hand moves lower, sliding along the curve of his waist to rest just above his hip bone. The touch is deliberate now, unmistakably intentional. I'm waiting for the moment when he'll remember who he's supposed to be, when he'll pull away and restore the careful boundaries that have kept us safe. Instead, his hand finds my wrist. For a split second, I think he's going to push me away, and my heart stops beating entirely. But then his fingers close around my wrist, and instead of pulling my hand away, he presses it closer, guiding it to rest more firmly against his skin. The gesture is so quiet, so subtle, that it takes a moment for its significance to register. But when it does, the world tilts on its axis. He's not stopping me. He's encouraging me. He's asking for something he can't voice, admitting to wanting something he's not supposed to want. You don't stop, do you? His voice is barely above a whisper, but there's something broken in it, something raw and vulnerable that I've never heard before. The words could be a complaint, but they don't sound like one. They sound like a confession. The question hangs between us like a challenge, and I realize this is the moment. This is where we either retreat back to the safety of what we were before or step forward into territory neither of us has mapped. My mouth goes dry, and for a long moment I can't find my voice. Do you want me to? I finally manage, the words coming out rougher than I intended. The silence that follows is the longest of my life. I can feel him thinking, feel the weight of the decision settling over both of us. This isn't just about touch anymore. It's about acknowledgement, about admitting that what's happening between us has moved far beyond the boundaries of friendship into something we've both been too afraid to name. When he finally speaks, his voice is so quiet I almost miss it. No. The single word hits me like a physical blow. Relief and terror and desperate want all colliding in my chest at once. Because this is Damien, my straight roommate, my best friend, the guy who spent months talking about girls and dates, and the kind of future that doesn't include whatever this is between us. And he's telling me not to stop. His hand is still wrapped around my wrist, still holding my palm against his skin like he's afraid I might disappear if he lets go. The touch burns electric and impossible and real in ways that make my head spin. Every assumption I've made about him, about us, about what's possible in this space we've created together, crumbles and reforms in the span of a heartbeat. I can feel the exact moment when his guard drops completely. The tension in his muscles releases, and he melts against me with a kind of surrender that feels like coming home. His breathing deepens, and I realize he's been holding back for far longer than I imagined. That maybe all those moments I thought I was reading too much into were actually him trying to tell me something he didn't have words for. The revelation isn't just that he wants this. It's that he's been wanting it all along. That every careful touch, every elaborate excuse to share my space, every moment of lingering contact has been his way of testing the waters, of seeing how far he could push before I pulled away. That maybe I'm not the only one who's been lying awake at night cataloging touches and analyzing every interaction for hidden meaning. The knowledge changes everything and nothing at once. We're still lying in the same bed we've shared for months, still bathed in the same amber light from the desk lamp. But the air between us feels different now, charged with honesty and possibility and the terrifying freedom that comes with finally acknowledging what we both want. His hand tightens around my wrist, and I understand this is his way of saying what he can't voice yet, that he doesn't want distance, that he never has, that all those boundaries he's drawn in words were never meant to keep me out. They were meant to give him permission to let me in. The word no hangs between us like a revelation, and for a moment, I can't breathe around the weight of it. Because this is real now. This thing we've been dancing around for months, this careful choreography of touches and glances and unspoken wants, it's finally been given voice, and there's no taking it back. But even as relief floods through me, fear follows close behind. Because wanting something and being brave enough to reach for it are two entirely different things. And the distance between where we are now and where this could lead feels infinite, terrifying, full of possibilities for everything to shatter if I move wrong. I pull back slightly, just enough to see his face in the amber light. His eyes are wide, darker than usual, and there's something raw in them that makes my chest ache. He looks young suddenly, younger than his 22 years, like the confident facade he wears for the world has been stripped away entirely. Say something, I whisper, my voice barely audible in the quiet room. I don't want to ruin this. The words come out more honest than I intended, carrying all the fear I've been holding back. Because this friendship, this connection we've built in the confines of these four walls, it's the most important thing in my life. The thought of losing it, of making the wrong move and having him retreat behind walls I can't scale, is almost paralyzing. For a long moment, he doesn't respond. I can see him thinking, can watch the war playing out behind his eyes. There's fear there too, I realize. Fear that matches my own. Fear of stepping into territory neither of us has mapped before. But there's something else underneath it, something that looks like longing. Then don't stop, he says, and his voice is barely more than breath against my neck. The words hit me like a physical blow, sending heat racing through my veins. Because this is Damien, who's never been uncertain about anything in his life, who's always known exactly who he is and what he wants. And he's looking at me like I'm the answer to a question he's been afraid to ask. The choice is terrifying, but I make it anyway. I lean in slowly, giving him every opportunity to change his mind, to laugh this off, to retreat back to the safety of what we were before. But he doesn't move away. Instead, his eyes flutter closed, and his breath catches in a way that makes my heart stutter. When my lips finally brush against his, it's hesitant at first, barely more than a whisper of contact. Testing, questioning, asking permission with every microscopic movement. He goes completely still beneath me, and for a split second I think I've made a terrible mistake. Then his hand comes up to cup the back of my neck, and he's kissing me back with a desperation that takes my breath away. All the careful control he's maintained for months dissolved in an instant, and suddenly he's pressing closer, his mouth moving against mine like he's been starving and I'm sustenance. The kiss is everything and nothing like I imagined it would be. There's desperation in it, yes, but also tenderness. Wonder mixed with relief, fear tangled up with one in ways that make my head spin. His lips are softer than I expected, and he tastes like the mint gum he's always chewing, familiar and foreign at the same time. When we finally break apart, we're both breathing hard, foreheads pressed together in the amber glow of the desk lamp. His eyes are still closed, like he's afraid that opening them might make this moment disappear. There's something vulnerable about him in the aftermath, something that makes me want to gather him closer and protect him from whatever war is still raging in his head. I don't know what this means, he whispers against my lips, and there's something broken in his voice that makes my chest ache. We don't have to know. I tell him, and I realize as I say it that it's true. This doesn't have to be about labels or definitions or figuring out how to fit this into neat categories that make sense to the outside world. This could just be about us, about this moment, about the truth we've finally been brave enough to acknowledge. He opens his eyes then, and there's something in them that looks like gratitude, like relief at not having to have all the answers right now, at being allowed to exist in this space between questions without having to solve the equation immediately. The silence that follows isn't uncomfortable. It's full, heavy with possibility and wonder, and the kind of intimacy that comes from finally being honest about something you've been hiding from yourself. We lie there, breathing the same air, existing in this bubble of truth we've created together. I can feel something shifting between us, some fundamental change in the architecture of what we are to each other. We've crossed a line tonight that can't be uncrossed, and both of us know it. There will be questions later, conversations about what this means and where it leads and how we navigate the world outside this room. But right now, in this moment, none of that matters. What matters is the weight of his body against mine, the way his breathing is gradually sinking with mine again. What matters is that he kissed me back, that he chose to step into this unknown territory with me instead of retreating to the safety of what we were before. When he settles against my side again, his head finding its familiar place on my shoulder, there's something different about the way he positions himself. More intentional, more claimed. Like he's not just seeking comfort anymore, but actively choosing to be close to me in ways that acknowledge what we've just shared. His hand finds mine in the darkness, fingers intertwining with a kind of deliberate intimacy that makes my heart race all over again. The gesture is small but significant, a quiet claim that says this is real, this matters, this changes everything. And lying there in the amber light, listening to his breathing gradually slow as exhaustion takes hold, I realize that for the first time in months, I'm not afraid of what tomorrow might bring. Because whatever happens next, we'll face it together, with this new truth between us like a bridge we've finally been brave enough to cross. In the aftermath, the dorm room settles into a stillness that feels different from any silence we've shared before. The desk lamp continues its steady amber glow, casting familiar shadows across walls that have witnessed our transformation from careful friends to something we don't have words for yet. The hum of the old heating system provides a gentle backdrop to our breathing, which has finally synced into the rhythm of two people who have stopped pretending they don't belong exactly where they are. Damien lies half on my chest, his body curved against mine, with a kind of deliberate claiming that makes my heart stutter every time I think about it too directly. His leg is hooked over mine, his arm draped across my ribs, his face pressed into the hollow of my shoulder where his breath creates small warm spots against my skin. There's nothing tentative about the way he's positioned himself now. Gone is the careful distance he used to maintain even in our closest moments, replaced by something that feels like ownership, like home. The weight of him is both foreign and familiar, like a puzzle piece I didn't know was missing until it clicked into place. I can feel every point where our bodies connect. His hip bone against my side, his palms spread flat over my heart, his hair tickling my neck as he settles deeper into sleep. Each sensation is cataloged and treasured, stored away as evidence that this moment is real, that it happened, that we chose it together. His breathing has evened out, but I can tell he's not actually asleep yet. There's something about the quality of his stillness that suggests he's listening, thinking, processing everything that's changed between us in the span of a few hours. Occasionally his fingers will flex against my chest, or he'll shift slightly to press closer, small unconscious movements that speak to a need for contact that goes beyond the physical. I find myself staring at the ceiling, tracing the familiar cracks in the paint that have become as much a part of this room's landscape as the scattered textbooks and empty energy drink cans. This space has been our sanctuary for months, the place where we could exist in our bubble of closeness without the outside world's questions or expectations. Tonight, it feels even more sacred, like we've consecrated it with honesty. The silence between us isn't empty. It's full of understanding, heavy with the weight of choices made and boundaries crossed and truths finally acknowledged. We don't need to fill it with words or analysis or plans for tomorrow. Right now, it's enough to simply exist in this new reality we've created, to let our bodies have this conversation of presence and proximity and mutual claiming. His hand moves slightly, fingertips tracing absent patterns across my ribs through the thin cotton of my t-shirt. The touch is unconscious, meditative, like he's learning the geography of my body through repetition. There's something about the gesture that makes my chest tight with emotion. Not desire, exactly, but something deeper. Recognition, maybe, or gratitude. When he finally speaks, his voice is so quiet, I almost miss it, muffled against my shoulder. I was afraid you'd push me away. The words hit me like a revelation, because I realize he's been carrying the same fear I have, that one of us would retreat, would decide this was too much, too complicated, too risky to pursue. That we'd wake up tomorrow and pretend this never happened, go back to the careful choreography of almost touches and plausible deniability. I was afraid you'd leave. I admit into the darkness, my own voice barely above a whisper. His response is immediate, physical rather than verbal. His arm tightens around me. His leg hooks more securely over mine, his body pressing closer with a kind of desperate possessiveness that makes my breath catch. It's the most honest thing either of us has said all night. Not with words, but with the language of bodies that refuse to let go. The truth is, we're both terrified. Terrified of what this means, of how to navigate a world that doesn't have neat categories for what we've become, of the possibility that wanting each other might cost us everything we've built. But lying here in the amber glow of the desk lamp, wrapped around each other like we're afraid the other might disappear, the fear feels manageable, distant. Because whatever questions tomorrow brings, whatever conversations we need to have about labels and definitions, and how to exist outside these four walls, none of it changes the fundamental truth we've discovered tonight. That we choose each other, that we're willing to be brave together, that this space we've created is worth protecting, worth fighting for, worth the risk of everything falling apart. His breathing gradually deepens, becoming the steady rhythm of actual sleep. But his hand remains wrapped around my wrist, fingers loose but persistent, like even in unconsciousness he's determined not to let me go. The gesture is both tender and possessive, a quiet claim that says this is real, This matters. This is ours. I close my eyes and let myself sink into the warmth of his body against mine, into the steady sound of his breathing, into the knowledge that when we wake up tomorrow, we'll still be here, still choosing this, still brave enough to see where this leads. The ceiling fades into darkness, but the weight of him remains, solid and real and home. In the morning, there will be questions. There will be conversations about what we are and what we want and how to build something real from the foundation of friendship and honesty we've laid tonight. But right now, in this moment suspended between what we were and what we're becoming, it's enough to simply be here together, claiming this space and each other with the quiet certainty of two people who have finally stopped running from the truth.